I don't think you want to know anymore. There's 25 books now? Generic intro into that goes movie. Here, back with another Game Theory FNAF video, and today we're doing the newest video, which is FNAF The Missing Key is Phone Guy, which we're still not really sure who Phone Guy is, I think, at this point, but I wonder why we're going all the way back here to the Phone Guy in, like, Five Nights at Freddy's 1. I don't know when the last time we got a Five Nights at Freddy's Game Theory video. You can check out my reaction to it, though. I'll leave it right up there. Also, the link down below in the description. Also, in two playlists on my channel, one being the Game Theory FNAF reactions, and one being all of my Game Theory reactions. Going in chronological order if you want to binge watch, do all of those. But shout out to the patrons, because none of this would be possible if it was not for them. I do read all your comments, leave them down below, whether you're patron or not, whether you're subscribed or not. But I hope you're subscribed, as we are like 1,000-ish subscribers away from 100,000 subscribers. I know that is almost the end of November, which means we're gonna have about 1 month to get about 1,000 subscribers. And right now we're getting a little bit less than 1,000 subscribers, so it's gonna be really, really close on hitting 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. But that would be a crazy goal to hit. I'm trying to hit it right before the end of the year. Gonna need all the help I can get. If you're not already subscribed, I'd greatly appreciate if you could do that. But like I said, shout out to the patrons, and I'm really excited to jump into this one. But I'm really wondering what the theory about Phone Guy is going to be. But let's find out together and jump on into it.
We've all been wrong about FNAF 1. Since its release, it's
there's two videos I'm playing on this channel.
Mystery, but now
of beating the game.
A week before. A book set the week before the very first game. Will it solve this 10-year-old mystery? Or is it going to leave the timeline even more
a new book? Dude, they love the books.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that reads the FNAF books so you don't have to.
There's so many of them.
Seriously, why are there 25 of these things? But regardless of how I
feel
about
25 books now?
Scott is still pumping them out, and now we've got a new series of interactive novels starting officially with the week before. For those of you who don't know,
is Scott like uncancelled or something?
Version like choose your own adventure book. They can't legally call it that because it's trademarked. Don't worry about it. In this book,
is it
what?
By who?
Ralph, a Freddy's security guard working the night shift the week before.
Because I know before Scott was really active, but maybe he just stepped back just to prevent it from happening again.
Hello? Hello? I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night.
That's right. Ralph is Phone Guy.
So
finally put a name to a voice. From here,
after 10 years,
how the story plays out. Some paths will take you through the pizzeria that we know so well at this point. Others will offer you new storylines, and others will land you exactly where Phone Guy ends up during the Nightfall call of FNAF 1.
Oh, yep.
As you might have guessed, this book has caused quite a stir.
An interactive novel.
Firstly, because, well, it's actually a pretty good book. The interactive element really gamifies.
How does that work in a book?
And builds the anticipation of where it's going. But
it's like a novel.
Such a hot button topic is because it provides us with answers to some of our most burning questions about this franchise. Not just who Phone Guy is, but who did the bite of 87. With the employees' new tactics of flashing their lights to stop the animatronic, and Phone Guy's insistence that the animatronic.
It's also 25th book, so it might be why it's so important.
All signs point towards it being Foxy. How many spirits are inside of Golden Freddy? Well, according to the Sixth Night, Ralph is overwhelmed by a noise of "It's me" when he's touched by Golden Freddy. But underneath that noise is a different voice speaking in full sentences. Two voices, two spirits. Who those spirits are and how it works are theories for another day. But it's been so exciting to finally feel like we're getting some answers to questions we've had since that very
What's in the box?
Game.
We'll probably never know.
The biggest question that I and many other theorists wanted answered was, what year does FNAF 1 take place? This book is literally
I thought it was in the check.
FNAF 1, so
did it not have the date in the check, or maybe it didn't have the year?
It would be this. Or so we thought. In true FNAF fashion, while offering answers to some questions, this book is cryptic about others. But as I went back through the book and the evidence surrounding FNAF 1's date, I noticed something. We've been looking at this entirely wrong. There's a detail that's been hanging over us for a whole decade. A detail that changes not just when in the timeline FNAF 1's pizzeria existed, but the entire timeline as we know it. Grab your camera viewing tablets, friends, because we gotta go back to the original Freddy's for one more night to figure out when
my friend's actually playing through it right now, or she's streaming it. I just got off the phone with her, actually.
Hello? I'm wanting to record a message for you to get settled into your first night. Welcome to Lumen X FNAF 2024, where fun and style
Whoa, was that Matt?
I can't read the
Jump
rest.
scare.
It's covered in catch up. Anyway, I'm sure you've already taken a look at the cameras.
Oh,
Some
the
extra
road.
information
Wait.
for you. You can see
You
Tom
can get
wearing
those
glam
covers for the
Roger
road mic?
Sponge tee. Careful with him.
I have the same
he will
mic to
talk
arm.
your head off about the moon not existing. Then you have Lee in the withered canvas jacket and
Nice.
comeback tee. Just a constant professional.
That's actually kind of cool. That'd be
Real
expensive to
deadly.
make.
He does have a sword.
What is Lumen, though?
Santi. Santi you can find sporting the endo jacket and scrap tee. Don't worry too much about him, though. He's all bark and no bite. Let's see. Then Amy. Keep your eye on Amy and her Fredbear reversible fleece Midnight Terrors joggers. She's small, but definitely gives off will rip you apart vibes. And actually will. I think that's it.
Jump scare.
Keep an eye on the animatronics. Lock the doors if they get close. Yeah. Oh, wait.
Matt's
don't forget
gone.
About Ash.
Who? Who's that?
The next Lumen X FNAF collaboration. Now live at lumenofficial.com.
What is
Why do
Lumen?
people keep taking this job?
1993 has basically
I was
been
not
the
born
de
yet.
facto date for FNAF 1 ever since Matt's very first FNAF episode. He used the amount of money earned in the week and compared it with the minimum wages throughout
But the
year,
minimum
which led
minimum
him
wages
somewhere in
check
the
that
early
much?
90s.
Oh.
Combine that with the fact that most weekly employees are paid on Fridays, with the date we get paid in FNAF 1 being November 12th,
yeah.
and you find the only year that fits is 1993. We almost got confirmation of this date too, thanks to some leaked Faz facts from FNAF AR, saying things like Fazbear's twisted pizza recipe was voted most yummy by 6 out of 10 children in every
6 out of
survey
10.
from 1988 to 1993.
Which
but
means
we were later told
because
by
it closed.
Illumix, the company that made the game, not to use this cut content for lore purposes.
Why?
These might have been cut because Scott just likes
That
them
specific
cryptic,
one,
it
or
could
just
be
all of
because
them?
the date was wrong. Either way, it did sow the seeds of doubt within the community about the legitimacy of 1993
I mean, it
as
checks
our
out, though.
1 year. Since then, a couple of other dates have been thrown around, but despite all of the theorizing, we've never had something that felt truly solid. Which was where we
it's the
all hoped
only-
the week before would
on a
come in and
Friday?
save the day. And at first, it seemed like it was doing just that. Throughout the book, Ralph not only records the phone calls that we get to hear during the first game, but he also listens to his old recordings that, according to him, are from very long ago. Quote, "It's strange to listen to a recording of yourself, especially one from so long ago. If you remember correctly, your daughter had
Yes.
just been born." I know,
Oh.
it is strange listening to a recording of yourself. Welcome to my life,
Yeah.
mate. At the
Yeah,
very start
well,
of this
yeah.
story, we learn
Yeah.
that Ralph's daughter, Capella, is 11 years old. And so, if this recording was made around when she was born, and that initial recording says it's from Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Fredbear's Family Diner, then the earliest this game could take place is 11 years after Freddy's opened in 1983, making the year
94.
1994. Now, there's always a chance that he recorded the calls a year or so before the opening,
Yeah.
or he simply rounded up the year. The phrase "just been born" could mean sometime between Capella literally being born and being 12 to 24 months old, which would allow for 1993 to still fit the bill here. That is, if it wasn't for something YouTube
been on a Thursday?
The Truth pointed
I have
out.
not heard of
They
this channel.
also did a whole video trying
That's
to
a
figure
great
out the year
thumbnail.
of FNAF 1, but they found an interesting detail. The page where we're told Ralph recorded these phone guy messages around when his daughter was born has two major faults. The first is that to get to this page, it requires some really odd pathway choices. By getting through to the 6th night on your first playthrough, you unlock a mobile phone which the book calls the bonus item. You then need to restart the book with the bonus item in your inventory. At various points, the book
What?
offers you a chance to use the bonus item, and you're encouraged to do so whenever this option is presented.
Wait, night
because
6?
that
I thought it
leads
was
to
on
the canon
5
FNAF
nights.
1 phone calls
What?
being recorded. However, to get to the page about when your daughter was born, you actually have to reject
Did I do
recording the
7
night 1
nights?
phone call. On this new path, you instead need to call the voicemail service. But to do that, you need a code. This code is on the mobile phone's speed dial, but you would only know that if you had taken the previous prompt and used the bonus item to record the night 1 phone call, skipping this voicemail section entirely. Plus, it doesn't use the typical bonus item prompt. It just says if you have the 4-digit code. Without the bonus item,
would any
you'd
code
never
work?
know what this code is. But if you have the bonus item, you'd have likely skipped this page and recorded the night 1 phone call. Yes, it is technically possible to do things this way, but it flies in the face of logic for the
Yeah,
reader.
why would
Of
you-
course, you could just dismiss this as a small mistake, but then once you do get
No,
to the
they don't
page
make
about your daughter's
mistakes
age,
like
you
that.
find a another problem. It contains information that directly contradicts other information in the book. On this page it tells you, you've never brought Coppelia here, as in where you work, Freddy Fazbear's. Yet later on in the book it says, she's never gotten over the time you brought her to work to meet the animatronics when she was 7. Both of these things cannot be true. Either she's been to Freddy's,
or she hasn't.
And so it makes it really difficult to lean on Coppelia's age as a defining piece of evidence.
Is she even real?
Debate. Fortunately, there are a few other clues to help us out. Throughout the book, it becomes clear that Ralph has a bit of an affinity for modern pop culture, specifically movies and TV shows. On page 147, he references The Goonies. On page 194, he punches in the code 1234.
As everyone does.
Long says that would be a combination an idiot would have on their luggage. The same line from the movie Spaceballs. When fighting against the animatronics, Ralph's daughter yells, "Try holy water death breath," which comes from the movie The Lost Boys. This thing is full of references like this, and they're mostly from the 1980s. The Goonies was first released in 1985, Spaceballs was released in 1987, and The Lost Boys was also released in 1987. However, there is one year that comes up more common.
They're that old.
On page 157, Ralph says how Bruce Willis makes crawling through vents look easy.
That's gonna be Die Hard.
Die Hard
yeah.
from 1989. On page 176, he mentions watching Lethal Weapon movies, as in more than just the original, with the sequel coming out in 1989. He even references an episode of Star Trek on page 8, Who Watches the Watcher, an episode that was released in 1989. And finally, he mentions his daughter playing a Sega Genesis console.
Yeah, Star Trek was a show, right?
You guessed
wasn't
it,
a movie.
1989. With all of these references to the same date, it really feels like the emphasis is on this year, especially given that none of these references come from media that goes beyond November 1989, the month which we know FNAF 1 takes place thanks to the paycheck. And if you remove the broken page about recording the phone calls when Ralph's daughter was born, you no longer need to worry about Freddy's being around 11 years prior, which makes 1989 feel like a really solid candidate, at least at first. As I said, there are a bunch of references in this book,
but what is there something they all have in common?
Mentioned twice. Time to make the donuts. This is the catchphrase of Fred the Baker.
How do you know that reference?
Dunkin' Donuts commercials introduced in 1981.
Dunkin' Donuts have been around that long?
In line with what we've already established. It's just another 80s reference. Except Fred the Baker and his catchphrase extended beyond the 1980s. The last commercial with Fred saying his iconic line was 1996.
That's when I was born.
Time to make the coffee, time to make the donuts.
So while yes, the catchphrase did exist in the 80s, this means we can't
as a North Carolinian, we kind of do Krispy Kreme here.
In the 90s. And to top it off, there's one other reference that throws a spanner into the 1989 idea. Disney. No, I'm not kidding. Disney is canon in the FNAF universe. People thought we were crazy for comparing their mascot designs to FNAF in our Ultimate Timeline, but here we are. Quote, "You smile, thinking back on better times. For a while, you'd have said that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was the happiest place on Earth, if you weren't worried about infringing on a trademark. The happiest place on Earth is, of course, the slogan for Disneyland, which opened in 1955. However, a key detail
that's the one in Florida, right?
Isn't the slogan, but the kind
Disneyland.
of lawsuit
I've been there
afraid of. Trademark
several times.
We spoke about
I went there last year, actually, for a day trip.
The basic gist
My friend's
is
birthday.
that a person or business can trademark a phrase to stop others using it to sell their own products. In this case, it would be to stop other parks or franchises calling themselves the happiest place on Earth, as that could lead to visitors thinking they were visiting an official Disney attraction when actually they were going to a Murder Bear pizzeria. To get a trademark, you have to apply for it,
and it costs a lot of money, I'm pretty sure.
You own. And despite being around since 1955, Disney didn't actually register for that trademark until 1990.
Really?
For Ralph to be afraid
43
of trademark
years?
infringement, this book, and therefore FNAF 1, has to take place after the trademark was filed in
90.
This isn't a totally out there date for FNAF 1 either. I know Rye Toast has liked the idea of FNAF 1 being in 1998 for some time, mainly due to the date given to us on the FNAF paychecks. In FNAF 1, we're paid on November 12th, and in FNAF 2, we're also paid on November 12th. Only this time, we know the year, 1987. That isn't a Friday, as we initially discussed, but a Thursday, implying Fazbear typically breaks the mold and pays on Thursdays. And another year with November 12th on a Thursday is, as you might expect at this point, 1998. This date would also allow for Copelia's age to work if you wanted to include that detail, as 11 years prior is 1987, the same year as the grand reopening of Freddy's in FNAF too. Finally, it also works with a line that has bugged us theorists for years. During night 1 of FNAF 1, Ralph's phone call mentions that these characters were, quote, forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years. 20 years prior to 1998 would have been 1978. Since Hellpoint 2, we have been aware that the franchise has existed since the 1970s, and in The Secret of the Mimic teaser, we saw the date 1979 pop up, very close to that 20 years prior. And just like it's possible he was rounding years for the phrase just been born, it's not too much of a stretch to believe he rounded up to 20 years when it was actually a year less.
Yeah, 19 years, 20 years, you're going to say 20 years.
So is that it? Is 1998
Unless you're 19, you're not going to say you're 20.
Honestly, I thought so for a pretty decent chunk of time. But as I was going back through all the evidence, something struck me. The quote from Ralph about singing those songs for 20 years, it's not the full quote. We often spend a lot of time focusing on the 20 years part because that feels like a definitive amount.
Same songs. Wait, the Family Diner, they had songs there.
The full line gives us an extra detail about exactly what he's referring to.
If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too.
Did you catch it? Ralph mentions them never being washed in those 20 years. You can't wash a character, it's just a fictional concept, which means this line has to be referring to the animatronics themselves. In the book, he also states that he was so happy that they restored Freddy and the gang to their vintage designs. These aren't new animatronics for this reopened location. These are old animatronics that have been restored. The same ones that have been around for 20 years. His joke about not getting a bath is just his explanation for why they smell, as during the canon of the week before,
that makes sense.
He never discovers the truth about the kids' bodies being stuffed inside.
That would make them smell.
Talking about the characters of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Fox.
I was thinking they sing songs at the Family Diner.
Animatronics, and that changes everything. Because if these 4 animatronics have to have been around for 20 years, then that means there's only one date FNAF 1 can be.
2003?
We've seen that time and time again, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was officially established in 1983. If the animatronics from FNAF 1 are supposed to be the same animatronics restored to their original vintage designs, then that would mean the earliest FNAF 1 could take place is 2003. But what about the Secret of the Mimic teaser? That showed the franchise was active in 1979. And that's true, but it's not taking into account the era of FNAF that game takes place in. In the books, the Mimic is invented as one of the earliest ever animatronics, designed to mimic the routines of others and wear whatever costumes it needs in order to become that
The Mimic is kind of scary.
This is the costume
also, shout out to not seeing the puppet at all in this episode.
Animatronics. Edwin, the creator of the Mimic in the books, is working on animatronics of the main 4, but they haven't debuted yet. We saw the same thing at Steel Wool's PAX West booth where they showed a sneak peek of the game. On the walls was a poster saying Freddy Fazbear's Pizza coming
I'm
soon.
really surprised they haven't opened up the physical location.
Animatronics have not yet taken center stage. They haven't started singing those silly songs yet, so the 20 years needs to start after they've debuted, once again pointing us to 1983 and therefore 2003. But what about the minimum wage or the paychecks or the references? It's true, earning $120 for 5 nights of 6 hours work is $4 an hour, while minimum wage in 2003 is $5.15. But I'd also point out that after completing the 6th night, you only get an extra 50 cents in overtime pay, which regardless of whether it's 1989, 1993, or 2003
is not enough.
Is still way too low.
Yeah.
I'm just not convinced Scott thought through the amount all that much.
I think he's just gotta put anything down. Or maybe it's a significant number to him.
Wednesday, and so it doesn't line up with FNAF 2's pay schedule. The only explanation I could offer is that in the movie, Mike learns about the job on April 6th, 2000, a Thursday, and the next day calls after and starts the job on Friday night, making his 5th night and the day he would typically be paid Tuesday. So we can't necessarily guarantee Fazbear is paying on the same day of the week for all of those years. As for all of the references in the week before, well, just because references exist in the 1980s or the trademark was first established in 1998, it doesn't mean that's the only time those things can be mentioned.
Exactly.
My dad only references Top Gun, which came out in 1986, despite the fact he goes to the cinema every other week.
Wait,
references
how old
like
is Tom Cruise?
The earliest it can take place, but not necessarily how far into the future it goes. If it is 2000 2003. This would mean that FNAF 1 takes place 16 years after the closure of 1987, which, if you're trying to revitalize a franchise, feels like an awfully long time to wait. Although we all know the power of nostalgia with older audiences these days. As for the future parts of the franchise,
a lot of stuff is just recycled these days.
Things fall apart a little. FNAF 3 takes place 30 years after the closure of Freddy's, which would then become 2033. That isn't an issue by itself, but based on this poster and the calendar from Security Breach, it's been theorized that Security Breach takes place in 2035.
That's real close together.
FNAF 6, Help Wanted, Special Delivery, and Security Breach all have
within
to
2 years.
In 2 years. That's a speed run worthy of a Tetrabit video. Again, that 2035 date has only been theorized about, so there is a chance that, like our initial FNAF
that's
1
also
date,
wrong.
it's also not correct. Though I will admit, it is annoying if Henry's message in FNAF 6 that was labeled HRY223 has nothing to do with the year of the recording and is just an arbitrary number. So, what now? We've examined the 3 options it feels like this book is trying to point us towards: 1989, 1998, or 2003. All of them have some pretty decent evidence supporting them, but they also have plenty of weaknesses. So, which one is the definitive truth?
Who knows? I don't know.
I'm sure many of you are waiting for me to pull out.
He's not going to have one.
The final piece of evidence that will settle this debate and give us an answer that no one was expecting. But the truth is, every time I tried to solve this paradox, there was always one piece of evidence that just didn't fit. If we agree it's 2003, then the paycheck days don't work, and Henry's message number means nothing. If we agree it's 1998, then the animatronics can't have been around for 20 years. There's just no winning. This book was clearly supposed to give us answers,
but it gave us more questions than answers.
Here and there have made it impossible to do so. And that is so frustrating as a fan of this franchise. We spent the last few years begging for answers to this franchise.
And now you just have more questions.
It really felt like Scott was answering our prayers.
This is the most Scott thing ever.
Franchise. The bite of 87 being revealed to be Foxy in the week before. The Spring Bonnie aerial on the Midnight Motorist car and 5 Laps at Freddy's revealed that Cheeto Man from Midnight Motorist was Afton all along. Ditophobia revealed that the FNAF 4 nightmares were a result of hallucinogenic gas, not sound illusion discs. But
good. I did not like that theory.
Look at those now solved mysteries. Outside of the immediate question, what did they actually solve? Cheeto Man is Afton, but we still don't know for sure who the kid that escapes is, who the person in the living room is, what the mound is. FNAF 4 is hallucinogenic gas. Okay, cool, but the game still plays out the same way. The bite of 87 was Foxy, but nothing else has developed as a result, other than clearing the name of my beloved Mangle. Even today's mystery, the date of FNAF 1.
We still haven't seen the puppet, by the way. I'm jinxing it. Okay, at this point I am.
1998 or 2003, FNAF 3 still happens next and it burns down. Then FNAF 6 happens and it also burns down. Then the Help Wanted VR game is made, and then the Pizzaplex gets built and is taken over.
Well, the puppets are technically
in the image of that
one, but you know what I mean.
And so, to some degree, I'm thankful that Scott is giving them to us, but they're ultimately hollow gestures, as we're still unable to use those to figure out the bigger mysteries. What's the deal with Gregory? What happened to Cassie?
I don't think you want to know anymore.
It kind of feels like we're being played with.
Yeah.
Small answers to old questions that don't move the story forward. And even then, they're filled with so many contradictions.
Exactly.
That you still can't solve them all anyway.
Do you want
that
the answers?
Just sucks. It's one of the reasons why a large part of this fandom wants the books to be canon. It may not solve everything,
but it'll solve
it gives
a lot.
us much more straightforward stories and explanations, something tangible that we can hold on to.
But here's the thing: if he makes it
than the alternative of being left,
if he makes things concrete, then people are gonna argue about it. People are left to believe what they want.
So many things, and in a time
nobody's wrong when it's up to
want to be able to go to our favorite franchises and feel secure. But instead, it feels as though we're being messed around more and more. As we get close to the end of 2024 and we've got a new year of FNAF upon us, let's just remember to give each other some slack. Whether you believe it's 1989,
well, yeah, everybody should be allowed to
2003, or
with
the original.
Everyone should be allowed to
at the end of the day,
have their own theories.
Working with a broken system, just trying our best to make sense of it. And Scott, if you happen to be watching this, you've got Secret of the Mimic, an interactive novel about Cassie in the Pizzaplex, and another Into the Pit adaptation coming. Let there be some actual answers.
I like how he has different
co-authors. Small details. And please make sure there aren't too many contradictions this time. And if you need volunteers to help double check your lore, I might know a good group of people that would be willing to to help out. But
Wow.
hey, that's
I see
just a
ID's
theory.
fantasy in there.
Game theory. Thanks for watching. And if you want to watch a mystery that can be solved, check out my prediction for Poppy Playtime Chapter
Still know
4.
nothing about
Keep
Poppy
on keeping
Playtime.
on, theorists.
Gravity Falls. Very interesting. We have a name for a foam guy. I guess it's Ralph. I'm guessing that's just going to be canon now. Or it might not be canon because I know the books aren't 100% canon, but we can just call him Ralph instead of Phone Guy because that's, you know, kind of the same guy. What in the world? Pokemon TCG Pocket? What is that? I think I saw Rhyme Style talk about that. What even is that? I've never heard of that until he did that. Apparently it's a thing. I thought he was just talking about Pokemon Go or something like that. But we finally know who the phone guy is after all of these years. And, of course, in the traditional Scott way, we have more questions and answers and another book and 2 more books and another game coming out. Game Theory is going to have a very fun year of FNAF content, and I'm going to react to all of it. I hope to see you there. If you're not already subscribed, we are so close to 100,000 subscribers, which is a massive milestone. I do read our comments, leave them down below. Let me know what you think about this and what your theory is for FNAF and Game Theory and stuff like that. I would love to read it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. But until the next video, take care and keep the music.
We were playing that song.